Hi, home group leaders, and welcome to week 2 of Under the Hood. Really want to just make this a pretty short video today. Not a lot of explaining to do about how everything's going to work and all those types of things. But I just wanted to start just by saying thank you. Thank you for the investment that you're making in our church, in the people who come to your home group. And my prayer is that God will really be meeting with you as you meet with your home group, and that God will just do something in the lives of every single person who attends your home group. This week, I just want to share a few things that we're going to be doing. Of course, the subject is going to be grace, God's unmerited favor that He gives us and that He just bestows freely to people. And our desire as a church to be a grace-giving church. And I'm not sure when you're going to be watching this video. If you're watching it and you've already heard the sermon, then you know that we're going to be focusing on the woman at the well and all the different ways that she doesn't fit churchy type people. You know, she was, had shame in her life. She didn't understand spiritual lingo when Jesus started talking about spiritual water and all of those things. She had theological questions. She was confused. All of those types of things, but Jesus extended grace to her, all while the disciples were oblivious to her. They came back, and their concern was, why was Jesus talking to her, and does Jesus need something to eat? And Jesus, at the end of that passage that we are going to be reading in the sermon, or that you've already heard, Jesus says, guys, there are people who need grace all around us. And so the harvest field is just ready, he says, with people who need grace. I want to give you a little bit of a picture of what next week's going to be as well, so that you understand where we're going. Next week, we're going to be talking about discipleship. And we're going to look at another story of grace with Jesus and the woman who's caught in adultery. And we're going to just sort of build on this week's sermon next week. And here again, we will have a woman who had many of those things going against her that the woman at the well had. But where we're gonna sort of go down a different path is at the end of Jesus' discussion with the woman caught in adultery. He says to her, I don't condemn you, but go and leave your life of sin. And so next week we're going to talk about discipleship and about how grace and discipleship go hand in hand. Grace and discipleship go hand in hand. God loves us just the way we are, but He loves us too much to leave us the way we are. And what we're going to try to do is see how those two things go hand in hand over these next 2 weeks. As you go through your study guides this week, there are 2 questions that I just want to point out to you before we wrap up this video, in 2 concepts that I really want you to work on in your home groups. The first concept is the idea that it is easier to receive grace than to give grace. One of the things that has historically happened with us as a church is we have been graceful to people, and as a result, we've attracted a lot of people. And those people attend for some time and become a part of our church, but then when it comes time for them to extend grace to others, it often, at least sometimes, becomes difficult. And so there's a question about that. Why is it easier to receive grace than to extend grace? And I really would like, if you could, as a home group leader, to just let people, just let them think that through some, and let them see the importance of giving grace once they've received grace. The second thing that I really want them to understand is that grace is unmerited. That grace is God's unmerited favor. And so one of the questions that I put in your guide is it possible for some people to deserve more grace than other people? And it's a trick question, just so you know. The reality is that some people need more grace than other people, but none of us deserve grace. And so when I give grace to someone, when I'm graceful with someone, it isn't like there's a limit. It isn't like, well, you are a person who's better than this other person. And just to maybe remind folks of the scriptures that they've been reading throughout the week. One of the scriptures was the story of the workers in the vineyard, where some worked all day and some just worked an hour, and they all received the same. So some people need more grace, but none of us deserve grace. And so if you can really get those two concepts in home group, that would be really helpful. That grace is unmerited, that people don't deserve it, that I don't get to choose who I give grace to. God doesn't choose who he gives grace to. It isn't deserved. And that really it's our desire, it's our responsibility once we've received grace to give grace. Hey, just one more thing before we wrap up here today. I have enjoyed the feedback that I'm getting. I just had someone this morning tell me they had home group last night. This is Thursday morning when I'm recording this, and they just told me, hey, we didn't even get through all the questions. It was really, really awesome. I also, though, really am looking for constructive advice as well. This is something that we might start doing 3 or 4 or 5 times a year with sermon series, and so we want to do it well. So thank you again for all that you're doing. Email me, call me, do whatever you'd like, and have a great week. Thanks again. Bye-bye.